Is AI going to take your job? Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that the AI invasion is happening way faster than we anticipated. Good news is can't do everything. And in fact, there's some things where we can work with it to do more than we otherwise thought we could. Hello and welcome to TechFirst. My name is John Koetsier. Cognizant just released a major AI report. AI is moving way faster than we anticipated. 93% of all jobs, they studied 1,000 jobs, will be impacted, and AI can already unlock $4.5 trillion in value. That's absolutely huge. It's also growing fast, even in careers like construction, which we might have assumed were safe, but it can't do everything. People still matter, at least for now. To chat more, dive into the data, we've got Cognizant CTO, Babak Hodjat. Welcome, Babak. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you very much.
Super pumped to have you with us today. Thank you so much. Big report. You looked at 1,000 jobs, 20,000 different tasks. You figured out what AI can do, what it can't do, where it fits, where it doesn't fit. What were the biggest surprises in the data for you?
Well, we had done a analysis in 2023, actually, and this was sort of revisiting that. The analysis was, as you said, on almost 20,000 tasks across 1,000 jobs, basically the jobs that are reported in the US annually. And the surprise was some of the tasks that we were expecting to be automated later on are already being automated. Some of the breakthroughs, for example, in agentic AI and multimodal AI and so forth, are already impacting some of these tasks. And there were also surprises the other way, where there were certain jobs we expected to be exposed more, and they seem to have hit sort of a plateau on their exposure, which underscores the role of humans in there. But in general, the rate of exposure, the rate of automation and tasks that we can now augment using AI has gone well beyond what we expected.
Give some examples of the jobs that you thought would be totally automated and now are not at the top of the list for what percentage of it is automated.
Yeah, some of the jobs that we expected to be at higher automation, these were, I'm just trying to look them up right
No
now.
worries.
So these jobs were, let's see, just so I don't, jobs like legal exposure did jump more than we expected. And let's see, I have here, okay, so jobs in computers, programming, and mathematics. We expected to be exposed more, but are not as exposed as we expected, which is a
Yeah.
little bit of a surprise. But we think that that is part of what we think, as I mentioned, is sort of this plateau that we're hearing.
Yeah,
We're seeing.
plateau, right? Because LLMs came in, knocked the door down, everything happened, everything exploded. It's amazing, it's incredible. And yet there's a plateau there, right? There's a limit to what LLMs can do. They're amazing and they're doing really well. Gemini 3 is super impressive, the latest ChatGPT, all that stuff, but they still make some basic errors and can't do other things.
I must also add, these are areas where AI has been adopted faster. AI folks are programmers themselves. So most of our AI benchmarks have something to do with programming too. And so they have been adopted faster, and it looks like they've been saturated in their adoption. So they've kind of plateaued. Math
Okay.
kind of similar. There are a lot of reasoning and math benchmarks that we have in there. Other jobs, no, we don't have the benchmarks. We haven't and the adoption rate hasn't been as fast, but tasks are automatable. There's a difference between what's automatable and what is actually being adopted already.
It was interesting as well to see in the data that there's some jobs that most of us probably thought, hey, wow, those are safe, right? You're talking jobs in construction, right?
Yeah.
That are actually being impacted more significantly. And as I was thinking about it, my supposition is, look, AI can help me. I'm a carpenter. What's my best solution for framing this up? Or what do I have to put? How far do I have to space, 6-inch studs now? I assume those are some of the areas. Are there other?
These are all also, yeah, very surprising. Labor, as you mentioned, as well as transportation. Now, it's still small relatively in as far as the exposure is concerned, but it's growing and it's significant. We're seeing, for example, in transportation, rise from 6% exposure that we expected in 2023 to 25%. In construction, from 4% to 12%. These are big jumps.
Mhm.
that weren't expected. You can think of like we do have self-driving cars and AI systems there are starting to prove themselves. You mentioned a few examples in labor. Generally speaking, since 2023, we've been able to give tools to our AI. So that's what agency is. And agentic
Mhm.
systems are able to actually do stuff on our behalf. And I think that explains a big portion of this rate of disruption that we're seeing.
That makes a lot of sense, and you can totally see that with self-driving cars, even drone delivery, which is actually a reality in parts of the US and Europe today.
That's right.
Oh, and there's an AI component to that, route management, which the traveling salesman problem, right? Solving that, where do I go first and where do I go next? All that stuff. Lots of things there. So 93% of jobs are impacted, even many manual jobs, but the average percent of the job that's impacted is 39%. Talk about that difference. That's the percentage of work that are labor or tasks that are within a specific job code.
Yeah. So the way we look at it is that we look at the job, and the job constitutes a number of tasks. So we look at the tasks that can be automatable or impacted by AI. But of course, a job constitutes many tasks, and not all the tasks within a job can be automated with AI today. And so that explains why the percentage on the job is smaller. And it also points at the fact that, it's humans plus AI. It's not AI alone in many of these jobs.
Exactly, because I'm assuming that in a lot of those cases, let's say my job is 39% automatable, or maybe it's super stupid and easy and it's 85% automatable. I don't know. But let's say it is. Somebody needs to connect the dots there, right? And you may not have an agentic system that has contextual knowledge and understands things sufficiently. You still need a human to connect the dots. Is that how it works?
That's right. And humans are very, very contextual. We have very effective use of memory. Our expertise can be, you know, within the niche where we're operating is what we bring to the table. And
Mhm.
of course, creativity as well. So there are certain fundamental limitations to our current approach to the state of the art in AI that forces us to like of course, AI is very, very useful, but there are certain aspects of our jobs that today state of the art simply cannot do.
Yeah. I noted that management can't be fully automated, although many of the tasks of CEO can be. That was interesting to see.
That's right. And that was also a surprise. We did see that initially in our initial report, that it really doesn't care about where in that pyramid you sit from a management and decision making perspective, but that has definitely grown. AI systems are now much better at reasoning and decision making, longer chain of reasoning autonomously. And of course, the action part is there too. And so
Mhm.
tasks like, budget allocation, your pipeline review, things that we think of as being these like strategic, human endeavors in management, scheduling stuff, these are things where AI can help a lot. And so many tasks within those categories are automated.
I would assume that one of the biggest things in management, and particularly for CFOs, CTOs, CFOs, is being able to plan out scenarios in detail. What if I did this? What if I allocated resources? What if I, and being able to see what that looks like, how that works, and then being able to choose a path between those, or informed by knowledge of what could happen if certain actions were taken.
That is correct. Now, we have this sort of digital twin of our world in a large language model, but it's very generalist. So it covers everything, it's learned on everything. So it has its benefits. It gives you some breadth in trying to predict what would happen if you take some decision or some action, but doesn't have the requisite contextual depth that you expect in your particular context. So that will have to be fed in every time. And the input context of these large language models are limited. So we do have
Mhm.
some issues there. The flip side is other machine learning based approaches other than large language models that can also help in a more contextualized manner, sort of create this machine learning based digital twin of the world within which you are operating. So you can actually run what if scenarios against those. But they're heavily engineered, they require a lot of data. I think the augmentation of this generalist, more, wider breadth large language model based system, some machine learning tools, but a human that's an expert in that particular domain, those all put together can enrich the decision making much more.
And it shows where there's still plenty of room for innovation, right? Because you can imagine an LLM that is based on economic knowledge, financial knowledge, all that poured in. Harvard Business Review is all poured in, lots of case studies from business journals, everything. And then also specific data about a company and what we've done before and what has resulted, where we've allocated. And it's never going to be perfect, but it could get closer to being helpful, I think. So your top line number caught my attention. That's $4.5 trillion in labor that you're saying AI can automate right now. That's US only, correct?
Yeah. Those are US work tasks that can be automatable, are automatable today.
That is quite huge because that's, doing my math real quick, $30 trillion of GDP in the US, 4.5 trillion there. That's what, 15, 16% of GDP. That's
That's
huge.
right. That is that now it should be thought of as potential. So the rate of adoption is still not there, and this is potential. So we have to grow into that. Certain sectors are growing faster and certain sectors are not growing as fast. It also should be taken into account the fact that the rate of disruption and innovation in AI has been such that it has taken us by surprise. Every few months there's some new innovation that's coming through. It's not taking that into account. So this 4.5 trillion potential is likely to grow as we get more innovation coming.
It kind of blows my mind as to what that might look like on a global basis. And of course, it's going to be different in industrialized countries versus less industrialized countries. But world GDP is about $125 trillion right now. You're talking 15, 16% today. Maybe it's 20, 30, maybe it's 50% in 5 years or a decade or something like that. This is literally going to upend the world. And we haven't even talked about humanoid robots yet.
That's right. Now, the report does take into consideration some of the embodied AI progress that is being made. That is an area that is still sort of catching up. There's a lot of research going on in there for sure. The other thing I must say is that, we're experimenting in the US in an adoption, various different forms of adoption. What we've seen elsewhere in the world is that, they learn from our mistakes, from our experiences. So the rate at which they can actually adopt might be faster. Currently, there is a limiting factor, which is processing capacity.
Mm.
While we are making some really good sort of breakthroughs in making these AI systems more efficient and cost effective and smaller and efficient, not just in training them, but also in running them, they still are very, very processing capacity heavy. So that is something that can, limit adoption, especially internationally. But the good news is that everybody's working on optimizing these. The analogy I use is the early days of computing, where a whole hall was full of a computer that had, 4 kilobytes of memory. And today, we carry around very, very powerful multi-processor systems in our pockets. So we are going to get there, and we should be patient. This has unfolded over 3-4 short years already. So I think we'll catch up.
So if anybody has been wondering why this mass rush to build data centers, compute centers all over the world, this is exactly why. There's $50 trillion in labor potentially over the globe that is potentially automatable at some point, at some level, as adoption increases, as AI gets better. And people are rushing to fill that. And the cost per inference, the cost per token has gone radically down over the past few years. And we hope that continues in some sort of Moore's law of AI compute, but we don't have a lot of guarantees there either. Let's maybe make it a little bit human now. I want to talk about how to realize the most value from AI first as a company and then as an individual. Let's start with the company. How do you realize the most value from this super powerful tool that we now have in our hands?
It's about empowerment, and empowerment takes the shape of bringing in partners, bringing in AI, innovating in-house, and just giving access to people and allowing them to decide where and how they are going to augment their jobs and the tasks that they do using AI in a safe way. So that I can't emphasize that enough. It's very, very important. You can create these AI systems the wrong way, the dangerous way, the risky way, and you can create them the safe and efficient and productive way. And so it's very, very important to bring that discipline in, but also empower people to use it. But empowerment is not just empowerment through tooling, but it is also empowerment through skilling. We have a heritage of training and skilling people within our company, and we've continued doing that. And in fact, One of the things we did last year, I'm sure you've heard, is we broke a world record on vibe coding. And you might think of vibe coding as this thing that is, okay, only coders use. But in fact, 40% of the 50 something thousand people that actually participated in our vibe coding hackathon had not touched a line of code during their professional lives. And so, there's Cognizant before the event and Cognizant after the event, this recognition that, oh, this is what AI can do. This is how powerful AI is. And of course, these are the limitations. Here's where I come in. Here's what I can do with it. That all came through this event. So training, yes, events like hackathons, these are some of the ways I think that we can prepare ourselves as companies to endorse. And, the rate of change is such that you have to constantly be in this training and skilling mode.
Yeah, it's impressive. I have touched lines of code, many lines of code. Not that I would call myself a developer, but I'm doing some vibe coding right now for some apps and some SaaS applications that are on my mind. And it is mind blowing. Of course, a CTO is going to come and look at that and say, can I do a code review? And is going to freak out. And I'm suspecting that the amount of garbage code in a vibe coded app is fairly large. However,
Yeah,
it is impressive.
that is true. It also points out another interesting aspect that's happening right now is the amount of code that you can it's fungible now. You can just say, okay, I don't, garbage, let's restart. Or let's just write all this code so we can get a sense of what we want to build and then have, the professionals at it. I think there is that. I was using this analogy again as well. Like I remember talking, this is back earlier in my career, 30 years ago, with people who wrote assembly code and would not touch Fortran, because they said Fortran produces garbage when you compile and it's not efficient
Everything
enough.
old is new again.
Exactly right. So we're going through the same kind of process all over again, but it does open up a lot of doors.
I love that. I love that. That is great insight. That is so amazing. And it is true as well. Like for one of the apps I'm building, I'm pretty certain as I add and as I think, oh, let's put this in, I'm certain that the percentage of garbage code in the app is approaching 80%. So almost I could be viewing this as just an exercise of testing something, building something, extracting a spec from that, and then being much tighter on the next version and much better. Anyways, it's a wonderful, weird, crazy, wild world. Thank you for taking the time to explain some of what's going on and what's happening there. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.